It's the two words we love to hear so much. Huskers win.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey gang, DP here. It is the Sunday after, so we've had time to review, digest. Thanks for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And we appreciate you every day, as you folks who come and get the content each and every single day. I want to thank the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook, America's Sportsbook, and the official sportsbook of the National Basketball Association. Of course, it's playoff time, so there's plenty going on there. Make every moment more. FanDuel.com/lockedon for perks and details. Let me push this thing over the course of this episode, and I'm not going to try to recap an entire day and a full roster of decisions and coaching evaluations and such over the course of one episode. So we'll do it over a couple. But what I'll tell you is what I want to do in this one is to give grades. And it's a bit low common denominator, but I want to go through the groups and the rooms and to talk about what we saw, because this is what's going to carry us from now until summer camp. So I think as we talk about this through everything that we're doing in play, we now have eyes on what Matt Rhule football is going to look like, at least at its very fundamental stage, the basics. And that's what we're grading on, the basics. We're grading on doing basic football things at a Division I, Big Ten level, Nebraska level, and setting a new standard for Nebraska football and what it is. And fans all have their individual expectations. I think the collective expectation is a well-coached team. Just that basic things are being addressed, being taught, as Matt Rhule said, they're in the teaching phase. And this is the fundamental and the base level faction of coaching. But let's talk about this over the course of this episode. And I wanted to start with Matt Rhule himself, because he was on the field behind the offense most of the game from my vantage, that he's on the field and he's engaged and he's interactive. Now, there are different vantages. There are different perspectives. Some head coaches want to be above it so they can see all things. They can see all 22. They can see both sidelines. They can see coaching engagement. They can see everything. Some coaches want to be in the fray. Some people want to have themselves right in it so they can hear play calls. They can coach not only the coordinator, but they can also coach the players as they come in and out. And that was absolutely what we saw, that Matt Rhule was engaged and connected, and he was communicating and coaching throughout the scrimmage. And individually, every now and then he would pull an individual out and he would give them the face-to-face, which is a sign that there is a standard and an expectation, and that he's checking boxes with them. Okay, what were we expecting? What did we do? What did we see? What was the result? Was there anything you could do better? Or here's something that I saw that you can do better. And because of that, I can check a box in the things that you want to see from a head coach in the spring game, especially in their first public display of who they are and what they're doing. Now, I can't imagine any head coach, being satisfied with spring practice and everything that happens on the field. There are too many new things. There are too many new players in new positions, using new language, being asked to do new things. There were 2 touchdowns offensively by Nebraska, red and white, all day. Now, the final score was 21-7. And the reality is the 7 was actually a fumble recovery, a scoop and score from 53 yards that probably shouldn't have counted anyway, but that's neither here nor there. On offense, there were 2 field goals and a 2-point conversion, 2 touchdowns, and 1 2-point conversion. So the offense accounted for 21 points, 2 touchdowns in the 21 points. And I can just speak from an experienced coach standpoint. No, you're not satisfied with that. You're not satisfied with that. That means that there are a lot of things that did not work for you. So what I would look at in grading, giving Matt Rhule a grade, is giving Matt Rhule the grade that I think he would give himself. And I think that's fair. Like in truth, I think it was a fair performance. It was an average performance. It was a basic performance. It wasn't good. It wasn't great. But it wasn't horrible. It wasn't awful. It wasn't failing. It just wasn't good or great. So I think if you put it in that space and said, okay, let's go with a C, and it's either a C plus or C minus, depending on which side of the ledger you fall on, of your expectation. What did you expect from Matt Rhule? What did he expect? And he knows what his expectations were. Nobody else knows. Matt Rhule knows what his expectations were. But I would think that while he wasn't satisfied and not fully disappointed, he was concerned. As a fan, did I expect an A performance? No. Hoping for a B performance, which would have been all the things that we have talked about on this podcast over the course of, months leading up to this, was at some point, whoever had success, quite frankly, would be perceived that somebody else, their opposition for the day, so offense versus defense, or receiving team versus, kick team versus return team, that whoever had success in that, the other would not be satisfied. And I think Matt Rhule would work from that space. I'm going to say that I would give him a C and say that there's a lot of work that was done to get them from new coach to field crowd response ready. But we're not satisfied. We're not comfortable. We're not thrilled. I think C is appropriate. We'll put a pause there. We'll talk about the coordinators. We'll talk about Tony White and Marcus Satterfield and what we think. I'll give my opinion. That's what we're here for. Locked on Huskers. We'll be right back. Hey, gang, thank you once again. Welcome back to Locked on Huskers. Greatly appreciate you hanging out with us on a Sunday. Greatly appreciate it. If you would, hit the subscribe button so this content comes to you. And, of course, we're going to roll through the entire summer. And look, the transfer portal's coming up. There's a lot of conversation. There'll be a lot of players in and out. That's going to happen. So come here and get some content. We want to thank the folks from Built.com. Built.com. Now they've, new flavors, exciting new flavors. Go check it out, Built.com. Flavorful is what we've been told. So Built.com, just go check it out. There is a code for you, Built.com/LockedOn 15 if you want discounts on what they do. A couple of things. Tony White, I've said up to this point that Tony White impressed me as a coach. He impressed me as a coach. He impressed me in the energy. He impressed me with his intellect. He impressed me with his communication skills. He seems to have laser focus. He seems to be priority based, and he communicates that with his athletes. Like the folks that play on the defensive side of the ball seem to have a crisp, clear understanding of what's required of them, what's being asked of them. New defensive scheme, 3-3-5. The thing about 3-3-5 is that it requires different pieces, different chess pieces to make it work depending on what you want to do on that particular play. And then there has to be a great understanding, a football IQ of reading situation, circumstance, scheme, and then knowing what's required of you by you for your teammates, right? So you can't just go rogue. 3-3-5 is not a rogue defense. It requires that you have some run stop scheme talent in you, and that you have some pass scheme talent in you as well, and that you have to be able to call on them based on down distance, situation, personnel, etc. I have to give Tony White credit because this team, his defensive groups, plural, accumulated 18 tackles for loss. 18 tackles for loss. Now, remember, we're talking from the defensive side. So defensively, that is aggression, purpose, mission, finish. And to change the line of scrimmage defensively puts you on a pretty high place when it comes to football IQ and football execution. That you're getting tackles for loss, you have committed. You have committed to being aggressive, to being proactive, to being in place, to being able to identify what you see, put your foot in the ground and go make a play happen, and then get that player to the ground. Also, you are identifying that you are not going to be absolutely reactive in what you deal with. You are actually changing the line of scrimmage, attacking offensive linemen, setting edges and boundaries, and then putting people in uncomfortable situations with the ball in their possession. 18 tackles for losses. Look, if Nebraska plays any game this season, they get 6 tackles for losses, that's an exceptional day. There were also 8 fumbles caused. 8. 6 of those were then recovered by Tony White's defense. And it's a full range of players who made those plays. If there's any game where Nebraska forces 2 fumbles and get a turnover and they win that turnover battle, Nebraska's in a pretty good position to win games in 2024. Like 2023. It's my goodness. Like that's aggressive and that's result oriented. That's amazing. Also, on top of that, they had 2 interceptions. They also held the offense to below 50% passing percentage. Both offenses, all the offenses under Tony White were 13 of 27 with 1 interception and no touchdowns. That's quite the day. That's quite the day. Now, I don't want to go too far because some of the defensive grade is based on the offensive grade. But what I'm going to say is I'm going to give Tony White a B because that's probably what most defensive coaches would do. Maybe even a B+. But definitely a B. Now, Marcus Satterfield, listen, this is not an attack. We're just talking numbers and facts. Again, 8 fumbles. What you want from your offense is to take care of the ball control and being sound with it. I don't care what talent is on the Nebraska football team on the offensive side. If they if they put the ball on the ground 8 times in any 4-quarter game, it's disastrous. It's just not good, and it's a thing that you can control. Short passing game. If you're not going to go big and you're not trying to stretch the field, then the percentages have to be higher. 48% is not good enough. And in a quarterback room that both Matt Rhule and Marcus Satterfield felt like were the most talented quarterback rooms that they've been in, 13 of 27 times 2 is really not what you're shooting for. It's not the goal. I didn't go over 200 yards in passing. I believe one group. Let me be specific because I don't want to I don't want to put this in the wrong place. For what it was, here are the numbers. There we go. Wow. That Torres was 9 of 18 with one interception for 66 yards, suffered one sack. Chubba Purdy was 6 of 13 for 55 yards and one interception. Jack Walsh was 0 for 1. Heinrich Harburg started 0 for 7, finished 2 of 9 for -1 yards. Jeff Sims flashed and popped 9 of 13 for 139 yards. Those are the numbers. The running game that showed flashes. We saw enough of the young men that we were familiar with to kind of know what it was. Ramir Johnson was 6 for 35. Anthony Grant, 14 for 47. Gabe Ervin, 8 for 24, 1 touchdown. All the quarterbacks contributed on the ground. A.J. Allen was 7 for 20. Elliott Brown, 1 for 7, and then down the line. In the receiving game, I was a little bit concerned, and I am a little bit concerned because Nate Borkacher was and Marcus Washington both had 3 catches, and with the shared minutes on the field and shared reps, I understand. Both of them 3 for over 40. Billy Kemp 2 for 39, and then the drop. And Thomas Fidone with 1 catch at tight end. That's not gonna make anybody feel good about what they saw. I'm gonna say that's a D performance. D+. That was tough. But they have some talent and a position, opportunity to get better over the course of the next few months. Before the break, when we come back, we'll talk about those specialists. We'll talk about the specialists. Hey, gang, again, thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate you hanging out with us. Want to thank the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook. Greatly appreciate them and what they do for Locked On and allowing us to bring this content to you each and every single day. Make every moment more, FanDuel.com. The specialists, and this was unique because some of the return game kind of took over some USFL or XFL qualities, and the kickoffs were long, but the purpose of the kickoffs were also to keep them in play and allow evaluation to happen of players who quite frankly are going to try to keep their scholarships by special teams. There's some folks who need to show out on special teams, and in the receiver room, a lot of those players, look, kick returns and punt returns are how you're going to make your way. This is how you're going to help the team in full. The kickers we're familiar with, and we know. Like we know that we feel pretty good about it, but they were 2 for 4 for the day. It was a windy, crazy day. It was cold. Look, there was a lot to it. Only 1 punt was returned. That was returned for 3 yards. But I think we feel pretty good as a group about the kickers. What we're trying to find out is who the returners are going to be and in what. All of the receivers that we want to talk with, Joshua Fleek, Billy Kemp, Xavier Betts, all of them can return, can put in work. We feel pretty good about them being back there with ball security and everything in place. But did any of them pop? Did any of them shine? Not particularly. Billy Kemp had a 16-yard punt return. Joshua Fleeks had a 25 and a 22. Elliott Brown had 1 for 8. And this is what happens when you don't score in volume. You don't get to see your special teams. And this is the burden of putting the ball on the ground, fumbling. Your change of possession becomes from defense to offense and not in special teams. You don't get to see Brian Buschini got one punt for 35 yards. That's it. That means no other punters got opportunities. I mean, none of the other returners got opportunities. You got none of your your cover guys getting an opportunity. It just didn't happen. And that has to be frustrating. I mean, Foley's got to be, a little bit. You're looking for folks to make tackles. You're looking for folks in the special teams. Grant Taggy was a player who showed up, made a couple of plays. Blake Klossman, also Elijah Judy making 3 tackles. Watching Judy and Isaac Gifford on special teams, it gave me some peace because it means that players who may get some quality minutes on defense are also willing to go out there and put in the work on special teams. But we didn't get to see much of anybody. We got to see Bleak Road. We got to see Pancrats. But no, we didn't get to see enough. We did not get to see enough of special teams. I will grade this one incomplete. Incomplete, because you just didn't see enough of them to really grade and to evaluate. There were different players across the line who contributed, but again, the burden of 8 fumbles and 6 turnovers by fumble means that punt teams and you only scored, 5 times. It's not a lot. That's not a lot. So I'll call it an incomplete. Don't worry. It doesn't count. It just goes forward. But it'll be what we measure the entire next 3 months. It's what we will see, and it's what we'll talk about based on that. And when changes come, and changes will, because there are 98 players on scholarship and you have to get to 85. And that's assuming that you have 85 that you're real ready to go into battle with. Does that cover all the boxes? In the next episode, we'll talk about some of the injuries. We'll talk about some of the highlights and some of the not-so highlights on Locked On Huskers. We thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And we'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.